So I'm back in the Watts case. I found this horrible documentary as this song plays in the background. I have love, love is in my life. So the process of removing the bodies began at 5 a.m. on the morning of August 16th and will go on for almost 14 hours, with the report noting that evening 6:45 p.m. that evening, members of the Colorado State Patrol cleared the scene. Oh, God. That's what the tempering of the body accusation was all about, obviously. At that time, the oil from two 400-barrel tanks on the scene were manually drained by workers who carefully poured the liquid over metal screens to collect any possible evidence. I think they should make him responsible for this work. And once the tanks were emptied, men in self-contained breathing gear entered and removed the bodies of Bella and Celeste, whose skin came off their bodies as they were being passed out of the tanks. Nightmare. Their mother and unborn baby brother Nico were just 100 yards away in a shallow grave. The report revealed the diameter of the oil tank's opening was only 8 inches, meaning it would have been too small to fit Shannon's body.
Joy.
The troopers who headed up the retrieval process arrived on the scene around 9 a.m. in the morning of August 16th. I mean, these people, the work they do is incredible. While the first crew tank was being offloaded, Trooper Brandy, Reeder, and I put out rope handles on the 2 container pools, wrote Trooper Wilson. I'm not going to continue with this too long because it's just too much. We anticipated the bodies to be covered in crude oil, and we're going to use the pools to put each body in once recovered. So a lot of work had to be done when recovering the body. Once the tanks were emptied, the bolts on the tank doors and the base of the barrel were taken off by the team on the scene. My God, can you imagine the work? 14 hours of work, and the sad thing is, like, when you go home from your job, what is it that you think? This is their work. Like, they come home to their families or whatever, 14 hours of work, recovering bodies of a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old girl, removing them out of oil tanks where they were submerged. I think this video must be shown to the Watts family and certainly to Christopher Watts, so he needs to see the consequences of his actions. I mean, there's such a contrast between how he was talking, how he was speaking, appearing like a scared little child. I was so scared, I didn't know what to do. And then blaming his wife for what obviously was his deed. I mean, who else but a person with so much hate. He had to be so full of hate for those little girls to have been able to not only snuff the life out of them, but to have treated their lifeless body like that. And with only one thought: how he can get away, how he can hide the crime. And the idea was, if he hadn't confessed, I mean, I don't think they would have found those poor little girls. They would have been disintegrated in the oil. That was his plan, to remove all evidence of what he did. And I think that, it's just horrific. I mean, time goes by, but we are still wondering. How can anyone do such a thing? Not only murder those poor little girls and their pregnant wife and this poor pregnant woman, but this whole how he treated their lifeless bodies just says so much about him. And it doesn't matter whether he was bisexual, whether he has a gay lover, whether he had an affair. That's not important. What's important is that he took those two little girls, those sweet little girls, and just not only took their life, stole their life and their future, and stole them from their family, from their loving grandparents, the parents of Shanann, and murdered his lovely wife, but not only accused her, but he desecrated their bodies. He has no respect for life. He has no respect for the human body, for human beings. He has absolutely no respect for anything. And those terrible lyrics, which he took on as an anthem by that band, Metallica, killed the families, just so telling about what he was. No respect for life. So, of course, he had to Google, when do you say I love you? Because he wasn't able to feel anything, I think. A person like that is not able to feel any empathy for anyone. So, psychopath, yes, certainly. Sociopath, I guess that's also a part of it. And why am I busy with this? I'm just thinking, thank God that human beings are not like that. And yet, today I'm reading in the newspaper about how meat is being brought into this country, and ships and animals crying, and they're being electrocuted. Like they have shock, this electrical rod to shock them so they don't run. And when we think how we treat animal bodies, what do we do to animal bodies? We treat those animals, we abuse them. The whole transportation of animals is so cruel, especially from foreign countries. And 3 weeks on a ship, overcrowded, trampling on each other. And then the way you treat the bodies of animals, crushing them, causing them pain, and then submerging them in cooking oil and spices and calling that food, that definitely affects how people behave. I'm sorry, but for me that has more to do with having an affair or something. This whole culture of torturing animals and ignoring the fact that they have pain definitely affects how we Shelby, come back. Definitely affects how we treat other human beings. I think the first thing we learned in yoga school is that we must, in order to lead a better life, we need to eat a violent-free diet, which means not bodies of animals that were tortured. And this clearly has a lot of people eat meat and don't murder their children and submerge them in oil, but you know, what goes around comes around. We have violent culture. This violent culture of treating animals as things also leads to treating people like things. I think this man had no ability to love anyone or anything. There are a lot of people like that, but they are more under control. And I shudder to think that the reason they're under control is perhaps because they're afraid of the punishment. People are worried about the punishment they will receive. Otherwise, probably there'd be a lot more murders around. Thanks to the police force, the security forces, there are not more murders around. But haven't we learned the lessons? Haven't we learned the lessons when you see mass killings of human beings? Can't we stop the mass killing of animals? Can't we stop eating dead bodies? Can't we stop the culture of violence, of murdering animals, of murdering people? Can't we stop that? And meanwhile, we have to be thankful that there are people in this society that are doing such difficult work that they come home and they say, "What did you do today?" I took out of an oil tank the submerged body of a 3 or 4-year-old child, and a 4-year-old child whose bones were crushed by their father because he was so full of hate and violence that he took it out on his children and wife. And what gave him the right to do that? What gave his parents the right to defend him and to express love for such a person? Where's the love? Where's the compassion? It's drowned by a culture of violence. Yep, it's all connected. Everything is connected. And in a culture where the president shuts down the government for building a wall, when my country, the government is shut down, and there's a rise in import of animals. 37% more animals are being imported, baby animals, because the government is shut down as well and getting ready for re-election so they can gain more political power, perhaps, is beyond understanding. The Italians have a saying, the fish stings from the head. I do believe that it has to do with the climate in a country, the cultural climate. And it's not only in America, it's in Europe as well. I mean, I was just reading again Night by Elie Wiesel, who talks about concentration camp and what it was like to be put in a concentration camp. And I just kept thinking, there's no way you can explain this unless you realize it's a cultural climate of violence that treats human beings as lesser than you, that allows